What was the most forbidden you've had? For more infotainment, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thanks for watching. I went to a party while in college and it was about 3 AM, so everyone was going to bed. My friend who invited me was going to sleep in the master bed with his best friend, which was a girl. He told me I could sleep on the floor in the room and gave me a pillow and blanket. He went to go clean up from the party and her and I were just in the room. She told me that I didn't have to sleep on the floor bc the bed could fit all three of us. So I drunkenly go up and climbed into the bed. As layer next to me and my friend came back, got in the bed next to her. At this point she was now in between us. About 10 minutes goes by and I'm just about to fall asleep when I feel a hand lay on my chest. Next thing I know, the hand is down my pants and fiddling around. I quickly came to realize that it was her and immediately didn't know what to do, considering my friend was also in bed. This went on for another 5 minutes with me debating on my head if I should get up and leave or say. Next thing I know, she grabs my hand and sticks it down her pants. I thought, well shit, this just got worse. So in the master bed, this random girl and jerking me off while I am fingering her as my friend is sleeping next to us. Trust me, I wanted no part of this. She begins to quietly moan and says things like go deeper. At this point I am just very disappointed in myself for doing, and there was really no going back at this point. All of a sudden my friend gets up out of the bed. Walks around to the other side where I was. Stops, turns, looks at both of us and yells, just already. He then exits the room. I turn and look at the girl. She looks at me, and we continued. Not my proudest moment, but I talked to him after and he was chill about it. Dude just wanted to get some sleep. I have too. Me and my ex were walking down by the docks of boats in a state park on Long Island. We were both in high school, aka young end, so we hopped onto a random stranger's boat and started fooling around. Ended up with her riding me while I was sitting in the captain's chair. Bent her over while she was grabbing the steering wheel. Went on for a bit, then decided to across the control panel. And yes, I'm aware of how up that is, and if I could go back and not do it, I wouldn't. Move on our parts. End of June, like 2009, so I was 20 and my girlfriend was 18. It was really hot and I just got done with work, so I went and picked her up to go to the beach. On the way I started kinda playing with her a bit, and within 2 minutes she had the bottom portion of the bathing off and was giving me a as I desperately looked for a place to park so we could have some. After like 40 seconds I went here we go, a double fence street. And pulled over. I had a RAV4, so we put the back seats down and I got on top of her and started going to town. Left the windows down halfway since it was so nice out. After like 5 to 10 minutes, we started hearing voices, getting louder and getting very close to us. I look up and around, and there are about 10 parents standing in a group, just milling about. I instantly duck down and go, don't move, so many parents, and we both just freeze. Literally immobilized, like a T-Rex was searching for us. Their vision is based on movement. Turned out we decided to post up and write at a bus stop, dropping off the elementary school kids after a long day of school. Thankfully the bus came about 2 minutes later, so we didn't have to wait long. Waited another 2 minutes, promptly finished up and got dressed and left quickly. When I was 19, I attended the funeral of my great-aunt. My mom very awkwardly asked me to speak at the funeral, which was both surprising and unsurprising. Surprising, because I had a minimal relationship with my great-aunt, and unsurprising because I have a reputation for good toasts and public speaking. So I hastily compiled a few stories, anecdotes, and nice words, and rehearsed as much as I could. I was only given 2 days advance notice, far less than I would have preferred. So I'm doing my best to prepare, and the day arrives. It quickly becomes clear that I am not offering remarks, I'm delivering the lone eulogy. I would later find out that her son felt too broken-hearted to speak, and no one else in the family, her nieces and nephews, her daughter-in-law, her brother, my grandfather, was willing to step up. It was a very small, Perfunctory ceremony in a funeral home, maybe about 24 people. The funeral director begins the remarks, gives the vital stats, and introduces me. Buoyed by a shot from the flask I asked my older brother to bring, I take the stage and set about memorializing the great aunt who doted on us when we were young kids but who I never got to know as a person. I'm stretching, filling time with an ad-libbed story about how excited she was at her son's recent wedding, when I see the girl. She was about 5 feet 5 inches tall, shortish dark brown haircut and a bob framing her face, wearing a tasteful navy blue dress that looked more like what a young professional wears to the office than funeral attire, but it had a small keyhole cut out with a peak of very enticing cleavage. My eyes landed on her just as she dabbed a tear with a handkerchief. Our eyes met and she gave me a weak smile, which emboldened me as I continued to speak. I felt my voice grow a little bolder, and I finished the eulogy to considerable tears and a smattering of applause. After the ceremony, many people came up to me to thank me for the eulogy, including the girl in the blue dress. She introduced herself as Brandy and gave me a deep hug and kissed me on the cheek. She told me my Aunt Sarah had been her piano instructor and they had lost touch but she still thought of my great-aunt whenever she played. The funeral was a little unusual, as we were going to have the reception first and then the graveside ceremony afterward. So we go to this hall for a luncheon and I sit at a table with my cousins. Brandy walks in and makes a beeline for our table. She asks if it's okay if she sits with us, as it's obviously the dedicated young person's table, and no one has a problem so she sits at the table. Throughout the dinner she is laughing at my jokes and stories but I don't really notice anything else. After a while I get up to go to the restroom and as I'm leaving the restroom she waves to me from the end of the hall. I walk over and she indicates a large coat closet/room and asks if I wouldn't mind helping her with something. I agree, and she opens the door and guides/pushes me into the closet, shutting the door behind me. I want you to kiss me, she says. I give her a weird look, because I'm 19 and gawky and awkward and this seems far-fetched, so she says I know that's forward and it's a lot but I feel like when you were speaking I saw your heart and it was beautiful and I want to kiss you and feel your heart. I'm sorry, that's so weird, I'm going to leave now and regret this my whole life. I quickly assure her that it's not weird, even though it definitely was, and I then K her for what she has said. She steps forward and I wrap my arms around her back and we kiss. It's a little awkward, but still nice, and we share a few more kisses, each smoother and less clumsy than the last as we get used to each other. We should probably get back, she says after an awkward pause but thank you. I needed to feel something, and she trailed off. We go back to the table at separate times and pick up where we left off, conversationally. She's still laughing over hard at all my jokes, and her glances are getting more daring and suggestive. I'm trying to muster up the courage to make sure I get her number or Facebook or whatever, which in retrospect is sad. The luncheon goes on for another hour, and things begin to wrap up. I am out in the front of the venue, smoking a cigarette when she comes up to me again. Hi, she says brightly. Listen, I don't know what I'm doing but I'm having a lot of feelings and it's never like this but, listen, and she kind of paused. Would you want to hook up with me? She blushes deep red, and look like she's ready to run away. Partly because I want to save her the embarrassment but mostly because I really wanted to, I said sure. Yeah. I couldn't really figure out a way to downplay my own enthusiasm. Okay, she says well then, I already checked out of my hotel, can we go to your place? Shame, regret and insecurity washed over me as I had to quickly explain I was staying with my mom, she had driven me, and there was no way I could arrange a one-night stand at her home that started at a funeral. Her face sunk, she grew red again and she said forget it, I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. I just need to go home. Luckily at that point my parents came out and I had an excuse to wave goodbye and get out of the situation, holding my suit jacket just so until I could walk off my boner. After a time we were at the gravesite and my brothers, dad, and uncles acted as pallbearers. I was surprised to see Brandy at the gravesite but there she was. I tried to ignore her, and she was definitely trying to ignore me. I was almost immediately distracted however, as my grandfather had put everyone in a frenzy. The large framed portrait of my aunt that had sat on the casket had gone missing. We all racked our brains and tried to remember whose car it had ended up in. Playing a hunch, I saw that the hearse we'd brought Aunt Sarah in was now parked back at the entrance building where all the mausoleums were. I headed up there and peeked through the windows and sure enough, at the front of the bay I saw the white frame. One of the pallbearers must have tucked it in there after the casket. I went around to the back, opened the hatch and climbed in. Just as I reached the frame and was ready to crawl back out, I felt a body slide in next to me. "Brandy! This is perfect!" she exclaimed, with a crazed look in her eyes, which scared and excited me. "Quick, get your pants off, let's do this," she said as she deftly closed the curtains and shut the hatch behind us. "Just kidding, these are all lies. Thanks for playing. TLDR, I may have had a quickie in a hearse at my great-aunt's funeral. Fake name.